Hey everyone, it's Foxx from modelmaking.guru here. Hello, hello, and welcome to issue 5 of the Fanhome Fast and Furious Dodge Charger RT partwork. Yes, if you're not familiar with this, I'm building up the Fanhome 1/8 scale Dodge Charger. It's getting big. In this issue, we're going to be looking at issue 5, and we're going to be starting on the chassis, which I can't tell you how heavy that is. It's all metal, and it's kind of a bit weighty. It's going to be 8.5 kilograms when this thing's finished. I don't know where I'm going to put it. Anyway, yes, before we get going though, I do need to have a quick transparency disclaimer type thing, in that Fanhome are providing this partwork to me free of charge. They send it to me so I can assemble it and film it for you guys. So big massive thank you to the gang at Fanhome. Love you dearly. Thank you very much. If you don't know who Fanhome are, here's a quick video. So yes, today we're going to be working on issue 5, which is the chassis parts. As always, before we get going, a quick squiz through the magazine. Not going to linger longer on this, because you want to read the magazine, you have to subscribe to the partwork. That's how it works. So, as always, we get the fluff at the start. We get some background about street races and how they fit into the production of the movies. We then start off with a bit more information about Dodge, because of course it's a Dodge Charger. Of course we're going to have lots of information about Dodge. We're going to be attaching the wheel that we've already made to the chassis, and that's the assembly section here. Doesn't look too complicated, but we'll see. I always say that, and then it never ends like that. Yes. And then at the back, a bit more about the culture of modding and car customization, talking about the Las Vegas SEMA show. Look at that. Yeah, I know. And rather amusingly, one little bit here, it says, one of the cars at the fair presented by a well-known tyre maker. Doesn't actually say anywhere who the tyre maker is, and all the little markings have been blanked out on the photograph, because they're not being paid to advertise that tyre maker. They're being paid to advertise Dodge. Yeah, so that is issue 5. I shall go and get everything ready, and we'll crack on. Okay, so let's get down to business. Now, before we get going, I've just got all the bits I need here ready. Of course, I've got my little screw tidy box with all the bits and bobs in and some extra spare pieces. I've got my tweezers for picking up the tiny bits. I've got my screwdrivers, both the one that comes with the partwork and my own. This one is suited to some screws, but I prefer to use my own most of the time. But there are some screws where I have to use this one, because they're kind of weird sizes. I've got the wheel and suspension arm assembly from last time, and of course I've got my 3-in-1 oil, which is completely optional. You don't have to do the oil bit. I just find, because I'm doing so much of this all the time, a little bit of oil helps metal screws go into metal parts much better, and it's a lot less stressful on my hands. So I'll get everything ready. Let's get cracking. Okay, so the first step today is to attach the tie rod and tie rod end to the suspension setup that we've already built so far. So the tie rod end is this little piece here. This needs to slip in, matron, this way. It needs to be that sort of angle. And then we have the tie rod itself. Now, the way to attach this is you need to take account of these little knobs on the tie rod. They need to point towards that end of the wheel, I think. Yep, they need to point that way. So you're going on this way like that. So with those knobs, you can see they're sticking out that way. So this needs to now be screwed into place with the JM screw, which means I've got to do balancing and finagling and the usual swearing. So that's, we do it this way. We'll get the tie rod like that, the JM screw. Tiny touch of oil. Remember, we're going metal into metal, so I prefer to use a little tiny touch of oil. You don't have to, it's completely optional. I'm also doing the screw on the wrong side though. Is that the right side? Yes, that is the right side. It's completely optional, it just makes easier, you know, doing stuff. I keep saying that and repeating myself over and over. You know what I'm talking about. You don't have to do the oil. All the things like the oil and the fluffy towel and the screw tidy box and my screwdrivers, by the way, they are available in my Amazon store. Links in the description below the video. My UK, US and Canadian Amazon stores. Either these exact objects or very similar ones are available for you to get for yourself. There we go. We've got the tie rod in place. Yes. Now we have to insert. Now the next step is to insert the screw that we didn't. The spring that we didn't insert last time, even though we could have done it just then. Now the reason you didn't do this then is because this tends to open up all the time, and the spring would fall out and you'd lose it. And if you were doing this like a couple of weeks apart, the reason they ask you to keep this safe is because you're going to put it in now. Because once this goes onto the chassis, it's never going to fall out. But the reason you don't do this in the last issue is because if you do that issue and then wait for a week and then put it all in a box and leave it to one side, it'll probably fall out and you'll probably use the spring. So that's why they advise you not to put the spring in. It seems weird to not put this spring in like, you know, last time, but you don't need to. That's there. The spring is in place. It's very, very stiff spring. That's fine. We'll put that there. Next, now it's time for the big boy. I think that's everything there. It's time to bring out the big chunk O chassis. So I'm going to have to move the camera now because, yeah, we're working on the actually, it might be all right for the moment. We'll leave it for the moment. It's just adding some plates and screws. So let's work with it as we have it. So first of all, the thing we're going to do is we have some little tiny plates to add. There's my tweezers. There they are. So we have a plate called 5G, which I think is that one. 5F, which is this one. This is plastic. This is plastic as well. This, of course, is metal. Again, it'll make this is why we've got this towel down, by the way, today. Not because I want to keep this safe and secure and clean, but because, yeah, and that made the microphone ring. So imagine what it's like if there's no covering on the desk. It just makes this a little softer when I'm moving it around. Otherwise, you get booming in the microphone all the time, and you'd hate it. So we need to apply these plates, and they're going to go here. So we have 5F is going here. There's two little pins here, which you can just about see. Two little pins here. So this needs to sit on top of those, like that, and that is secured in place with two CM screws, Charlie Mike screws. You see I'm using the default screwdriver again. I like to mix and match. I know for CM screws they prefer this screwdriver, but hey, now I've done one very loosely at that end. Didn't want to do it all the way, to avoid stressing the plastic, but B, to make sure I've got some wiggle room, to make sure everything's lined up. So two CM screws are going to go into there. Can do them all the way now. Appreciate you just going to see the top of my hand for a little while. I'm sure you'll survive. Now I'm not sure what the purpose is of having these as separate parts. Whenever you do a part work, it doesn't matter what the part work is, you will always find that occasionally you have what some people would call pointless busy work. It's not really pointless. It's just there's bits where, you know, it didn't need to be a separate assembly. That is not quite straight. That's meant to be like that. It's not exactly horizontal. We'll assume it's supposed to be like that. Yeah, sometimes you get bits that you'll look at it and think, well, why was that a separate piece? That didn't need to be a separate piece. It's fine. You get it in any model kit. Sometimes you get a bit that didn't actually need to be a separate piece, but it just gives you something to do. Otherwise, you know, you'd have like 5 pieces and the job would be done. I seem to want to sit in quite straight. I'm not quite happy with that. I'm not convinced I've got that lined up properly. Let me adjust. Quite convinced that's incorrectly. Where's it gone? Where did it go? It just pinged off. There it is. Which way did I have it now? I don't know which way around it was now. Whoa. That way. Okay, that way. Alright. That way seems to fit better. Okay, so it does have a certain way of going round. If you do it the other way around, it might not fit quite as flush. I don't know why, but that seems to be the order of things. There you go, now you know. I do these things, so you don't have to. I have been asked why I tend to film these. It's just like, you know, multiple take but not heavily edited builds, and not just like do them step by step and show each step and that's it. My belief is that if you're going to invest all, you know, money in these things, you know, you want to know what you're getting into. Oops. You want to know what you're getting into. And if I can vicariously show you all the steps involved, then you can go into it with a full knowledge of what you're getting. Yeah, that's that bit done. That's a lot flatter and flusher now. So yeah, that does have to have a specific way. It was sticking out, actually stuck out a bit further here, so it's not just simple symmetrical. It sticks out there at that end, then it's wrong. There you go. Now this piece here needs to go on a little gap here, little notch cut out. I must stop dropping. It's probably just loud. When I drop that, you're probably getting deafened by the microphone. There's a little notch cut out here, so that sits in there, as far as I can tell, and then will be screwed into place. I'll just screw, and that's going to be another. It's going to be an AM screw this time. I actually realised today when I was sorting out my screws, when I did the first issue, I got a couple of screws and labelled them as MA screws. I made a little slot in my screw tidy for MA screw. Yeah, there's not. They were AM screws. And I kind of realised today that on the transparent bag, if you look at AM from the other side, it just says MA. So I was like, oh, you spoon Fox. There are no MA screws. That's those two parts. There we go. Next, we have to attach the torsion bar. Let's get the torsion bar. Yes, I'd much rather, I mean, I do a few little cuts and jumps here and there, but I'd much rather just film this thing straight up, because I want you to see the process. The whole point of these partworks is the process, the building. I can't really teach you anything, but then again, if you're getting this partwork yourself, you might want to learn some pitfalls. So the torsion bar goes into the chassis. Now, I don't know if it does have an angle to it. There's an angle of dangle. I'm going to assume that it's supposed to point, because later on it gets attached to, where's it go? It comes up here and it attaches to something here. So I'm going to assume that it needs to point up this way. If it doesn't, I can always loosen it and adjust it. That goes in here like this, in this hole in the end. I'm going to assume it needs to stick up a little bit. So you see there, I've got it kind of sticking upwards. We need to fix it in place with a DM screw. Oh, DM! Can you see? DM screw. What I can do is get this screwed in now. And then if I need to adjust it later, do that in all the way. This is a flat-headed screw. It's like a big flangey head. I know you can't see because my hand's in the way. Go in there. I can do it fairly tight now. I can loosen it. Well, I can make sure it's pointing up now a little bit. Just need to locate into a piece, so I can adjust that. I can loosen it off and twist it round if I need to. It's actually got some play to it anyway. So. Right, so next I need to put the torsion bar bushing. I do love the name of automotive things. If you've ever watched, the funny thing is, right, if you've ever watched the spoof video about the my brain's actually gone now. Turbo encabulator, that's it. Do a Google search or do a YouTube search for turbo encabulator and watch that video. That's all made up nonsense, right? But when you look at car motor parts, to me, that's what it sounds like. So this needs to go in there. So you've got the torsion bar comes into this little hole here, and then this locates into this little recess here. So you need to make sure the torsion bar is sticking up so that when it goes in there, it can lock into place. What I can do is I can loosen off this screw a little bit, just to give me some twisty. If I can get the screw in the actual screw head, that'd be good. Loosen this off a little bit, spinning freely. There we go. I can get this around here. Bushing. So yeah, all these like part names, to me, it may as well be talking about the turbo encabulator. It's just hilarious. Heating with an IM screw. IM. Quite big screws, these ones. Do an IM screw. I'm finding myself using the default screwdriver quite a lot. IM screw. Going to go in here. Need to make sure the torsion bar is not in there at all. Screw, torsion bar in. A bit loose. What I'm doing. Push down. Quite a long way to go. There we go, that's in. Torsion bar is in. I've got some rotational ability with this screw here. I need to, but I'm conscious of knackering the head of it. If I need to, I can adjust it slightly. I think that might be more what it's supposed to look like. I don't think I can tighten it any more than that. That's as far as it's going to go. So I can adjust it if I need to, if it needs to be adjusted and lined up in a certain way. So I'm not too fussed right now. It's in. Now is the fiddly bit. Now we need to attach the wheel, so let me get that ready. Okay, there was a quick jump cut there because as I was trying to dry fit this, because it's quite fiddly, I knocked my screw box and like all the screws went everywhere and all got mixed up. So yeah, I've just spent the last 20 minutes realising that I can't figure out which is which, and they've just all gone in that box now. They're all spares anyway, so that was fun. But yes, now we've got to attach the wheel to the chassis, and this is kind of super fiddly times because trust me, that spring that you've put in the piston there and the shock absorber is going to come off every time. There's been a few swear words. I've done a few dry runs of this. So what we need to do, these two lugs here and here need to basically seat into that and that one, and which one is it now? It's really unclear in the instructions, but I think it's that one there, that one there. Then you've got to turn it over and get the screws in. So what I need to do is first of all get a screw ready on the screwdriver, just ready to roll. Then I need to somehow, without the spring falling out, because it will, it's a pain in the bum, and it's probably going to be terrible to watch because there's no good angle for this. I need to get it on there like that, then turn it over, and then it comes off, so I have to swear, and then the spring thing comes out. Whoa. So let's try that again. If I can do it from upside down, it'll be a lot easier. Try it that way. If I can do it that way, because the weight of the chassis basically pulls it to the side. Not easy at all. And I'm also trying to do it on camera, which also doesn't help. I think we're in there. We might not be. I know you're just going to see the back of my head. I do apologise. That's not in. I think that's in. So we're going to get the first screw seated just to get it locked in place. I hope this is in the right place. Hey everyone, Fox from the future here. This screw will not go in. Now, if you're making this part work yourself, you'll have no problems at all with this step. You'll get the screw in, it'll be fine, you'll be brilliant. Because I messed up my screws and all the screws fell out of the box and they all got mixed up, I'm actually using the wrong screw. I had to try and identify the correct screw by simply measuring every single screw against the listed measurements in the magazine. However, do be aware if you're in this situation, the measurements listed in the magazine are not exactly spot on and there is some variation. So I thought I had the right screw, I didn't. This screw will not fit in place and the whole thing will fall apart again. So don't be put off by what happens here. This is just purely me not having the right screw because all the screws got mixed up. You'll be absolutely fine. Anyway, back to the program. If I'm lucky, it's not in the hole at all. No, not in any way, shape or form. Fantastic. Right. Screw ready on the screwdriver. Need it. You're supposed to be able to just turn it over, and it's so heavy. That's what happened earlier on, was because it turned over. It turned over and then banged into my screw box and then threw all my screws everywhere, and there was swearing. But luckily, all those screws are just spares now anyway, so try this again. So we'll get this screw in. Hopefully that's in place now. Please be in place. Doesn't feel like it's going in anywhere. Nope. Okay. There. Right, screw on the screwdriver ready. This may be where I do a quick jump cut and say, yeah, we fixed it now. So I was just trying to get this to line up. That needs to go in there. But then you see the spring falls out. Oh, frustration. And I thought the last episode was stressful. Always something, isn't there? Always something. Right, so I see other people do this in one go, and it's like, yeah, you've edited that 3.5 hours of swearing, I reckon. Right, so the problem is I'm doing it with my right hand, but I need my right hand to put the screw in later. See, there's that spring again, straight out. And that is what happened, it fell over. Okay, apologies for the massive jump cut. Oh look, it's miraculously assembled. Yeah, I did manage to get it on in the end, through my own fault. It was a lot more complicated and a pain in the bum than it should have been. Again, through my own fault. I did film it, but the footage didn't come out well, so I can't really show you. But basically, quite simply, you put 2 screws in there, one in there, and you put 1 EM screw in there to lock this part of the suspension arm into the torsion bar. That's it. It should be that simple. However, I learned a valuable lesson. 1, because my screws got all messed up. I had the wrong screw in here. This caused a problem. But 2, you need to make sure when you're assembling this and attaching it, you need to make sure that every single screw in this suspension arm, in there and on these corners and down there, every single screw needs to be 100% as tight as it can be. If there's any leeway, any like free movement more than it should be, it's going to cause you problems. Basically, when I was trying to attach this, it was on, but the piston was coming out of the housing all the time. The shock absorber was coming out all the time, and the spring was falling out, and I was getting really frustrated because that spring's quite tight. It's not a lot of play in it. You can see there's some movement, but not a massive amount. It just needs to be a little bit. So yeah, if you need to make sure that every single screw is in as tight as it can go. Basically, I had some of the screws were a little bit loose, even though I thought they were tight. And this screw, because my screws got messed up and I had the wrong screw, it wasn't locked in. This bar here wasn't locked into this piece, into this bushing properly, and it was flopping down a little bit, and it had too much play in that direction. And then that meant that the piston kept coming out and the spring kept falling out. So after a lot of swearing and a lot of cursing and wondering what I'd done wrong, I went round, realised some of the screws were a bit loose, tightened them all up, and it all fit like a glove, and it fits like a dream. So we are now in. Now I will obviously be able to show you the process better on the next wheel, hopefully, although I'm still not sure how I can film doing this bit, because getting that on and then getting the screws in, like fiddly. But of course next time I'll have the correct screw. My handy tip is, whenever you've got one of these, put the lid on all the time. I mean, literally, this thing fell down, knocked it, and all the screws went everywhere. So, but luckily now they're all in there now. But luckily they're all spare, so it doesn't really matter too much. But I will say, these screws don't quite measure the measurements listed in the magazine. I was trying to find the right screws by measuring them with my trusty calipers. Yeah, they're not exactly right. Like it might say 3 by 5 by 6 in the magazine, but it's not. It's like 2 by 3.4 by 5.7. So it's, yeah. Don't make any assumptions. That's what I did with this one. I thought I had the right screw and I didn't. Anyway, it's fixed now, and that is awesome. It's got some play in it. It's quite tight. The wheel is free to turn. It's not stiff at all. The wheel is free to rotate that way. Once the other wheels go on and you get all the steering rack and stuff on there, these should be nice and tight. They don't need to be super loose, but you can see if I let go of it, it just falls back like that. That's fine. Once they're all linked together, the linkages are all in, we should be fine and dandy. Anyway, that's enough waffle from me. I've gone far too long already with this episode. Thank you so much for putting up with it. If you think you can do better, and trust me you can, then consider doing this part work for yourself. Use the link that's on screen now. It's also in the description below the video, so you can click on it. Use the link that's down there and the promo code. That will tell Fanhome that I sent you, and that'll really help me out. So have a think about getting this part work for yourself. A 1/8 scale Dodge Charger. Until next time, of course, we'll crack on with issue 6. I will see you then. Don't forget, of course, if you'd like to support this channel, you can do. You can become a patron at patreon.com/modelmakingguru, or you can click the join button underneath any of my videos to become a channel member. Either way, you get early access and advert-free content and some exclusive content, and you're also helping to keep this channel alive. You're literally paying the bills, putting food on my table. So a big thank you to our patrons and channel members. Other than that, make sure to like, subscribe. I will see you for issue 6 next time. Until then, I shall say, take care, go make something awesome, go be awesome, adios amoebas.